Hello, this is Jason Wydrow, and this is the first of a series of many CAKE PHP tutorials. And in this tutorial, I am going to start with a fresh download of CAKE PHP, and we're going to get into basically getting your production directory set up so that you can begin the baking processes. Now, for those of you who are new to CAKE PHP or new to programming PHP, for example, or MySQL, database programming, for example, or any structural language programming such as XHTML, HTML, or design languages like PHP, it's important to note that if you don't have any background or experience in any of these, you should really go and get your fundamentals and basics in on those. You might find this quite a bit difficult if you don't have some of those basics in, particularly in the area of object-oriented programming, and just your general run-of-the-mill HTML and CSS styling. It's absolutely not necessary to run through my tutorials, but it just might make your life a little bit easier trying to learn this. But pursue as you will. I'm going to jump right into things just to get this going. Okay, so first of all, what I've done, I've just downloaded a fresh copy of CAKE PHP 1.3, and what we're doing right now is I'm just looking at the basic directory structure. And this is the default directory structure of CAKE when it's downloaded. Now, what we want to do first when we get an application is we want to get our CAKE console application set up so that we can start baking scripts. And basically what we need to do in order to get this running properly, and I've already done it on my system, but I'm going to show you the steps that I took to get that going. I've already got this I've already got these files installed in another directory, and so what I'm going to do is open up my start menu. I'm going to go to Computer Properties, and I'm going to go to Advanced System Settings, and down below is Environment Variables. And what you want to do here is in your path field, you need to edit your path field. And I'm going to make a whole copy of this just so you can see exactly what we're working with here. And what you can see is on this line right here, this is pointing directly to my CAKE console. And this is a full path, it's a full absolute path to that console. And the reason we're putting this in here is through our CLR command line interface. On Windows, we can actually access the bake script from anywhere, any directory, and we can run our bake commands as necessary. So it's important you have this set up. Now, it is possible you might run into some errors. If you do get any errors with PHP, go ahead and feel free to post your comments up on this post and any questions you might have, because I know obviously every system can be configured a little bit differently, and you might run into some problems depending on how your web server is set up as well. So, and I'm also assuming you have a web server set up on this. Okay, so basically, I've got my direct PHP directory set up as well, so that because the bake script actually uses that, and I've run into errors in the past where it hasn't been able to find PHP, so I had to add it to my paths directory. Anyway, okay, so make sure you add your full absolute path to the CAKE console in your fresh install in your paths file, and then what you want to do is you make sure you want to save it. Make sure you save that. Okay, so now once we've got all that set up, the next step is pretty straightforward. What we're going to do is jump into our command line, and you can access that by CMD or just typing command down there in the Windows prompt. And what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to give you an example. I'm going to run CAKE bake right now, which is the main CAKE command that you're going to use to bake your scripts. And basically I'm saying welcome to CAKE PHP. That means that my directory structure is set up properly. It's being read in my Windows path file, and that's all in the clear. So now what I need to do is tell CAKE where I want this application to be installed. So I've got a project directory set up, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this full address, this absolute path. I'm actually going to paste it right in here. That way I've got it exactly. I don't have to sit here typing, and I get a little typo and then going back and forth. So it's a lot easier just to copy the address. I believe Windows XP has that feature as well, but you just right-click on the address bar. Okay, so now I'm going to hit enter. So basically, it's asking me skeleton directory bake will be copied. Is this okay? Basically, it's the application's making sure that I've got everything set. My path is correct. This is where I want to create. Now, when I say the application directory, as you note, I've got it named Project 1 here. This is basically just a website directory. You know, it could be blah blah blah.com, and that would be your directory name, whatever it is. So this is the actual main directory of your website, the root directory. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit yes because it looks okay. I'm going to say verbose output just because I want to see what happens while I'm doing this. There we go. There we go. Now that's the very basic of getting all of that set up. Now let's go to my project directory, and you'll see here that I've got nothing was in here prior to this, and now all of my main files are in here for my the Cake skeleton app directory for me to begin building and creating my website. So now you see that I'm being asked from a database configuration information. And this is also important. You should have already created a database, or you can just create it right now in PHP MyAdmin or whatever MySQL program you use, or CLI, whatever you use on that. So once you have that created, I'm going to leave the name as default. The driver is default, basically. It defaults to MySQL, as you can see right here. And I'm using MySQL. I do not want a persistent connection. Database host is localhost. I'm leaving the, I don't need to enter a port on this. My user name is actually root. My password is blank. I do this on my local development server just because it's a lot easier. I don't have to mess around with remembering passwords and all that. And it's basically confirming I want an empty password. Database name. Okay, so basically what you do here is you just want to enter the name of your database. I'm actually going to quickly set up a database here. I'm going to pause this actually and set up a database. Alright, so I got my new database set up, and it's actually called Project 1. I'm calling it the same thing as my project folder just for ease of remembering. I'm not going to have any table prefixes on this. Just default no on that. Basically, it's asking me if everything looks okay. Yeah, everything looks fine. I'm not doing another database configuration. And that's that. So basically, I just created my database PHP file, which has all my configuration data in it. Now I'm going to jump over to my project directory, project 1 directory, where I set up the base application. And I'm going to go to my config file. I'm going to go into my database file. And there you go. There's the data that I entered for my database. So all of that was automatically created based on the bake script, and that's getting my basic database set up. And now that everything is set up correctly, I'm going to open up my local host, my web server. And as you can see, this is the directory that I created everything in. Everything is set up here. My database configuration is present. Now, a lot of times when you first get Cake set up, you might run into some errors on this page, and basically Cake will tell you what's wrong. Again, go ahead and post your questions up. Anything that comes up, any problems you run into in getting this all set up, I'd be glad to give you some suggestions. I've installed Cake on multiple operating systems in different situations, so I might be able to offer you some good advice on that. But anyway, just so you see, now you've got a successful Cake install running. You've got your bake script. You got your bake script ready to run here, and basically we can start baking now. So on my next tutorial, we're going to actually begin baking. We're going to get our database set up. We're going to get some database tables set up, and then we're going to actually start baking some scripts and using the Cake Bake interface to walk you through setting up a complete website. Yeah, and again, this series, this is the first part of the series, and I'm going to be running through an entire project with you, an entire custom project, and it's not going to be the blog application that you see so much everywhere. It's going to be a totally unique custom application of all very useful and recognized features and functions. So look forward to that. I'm going to try to get one out here every couple days so that I can keep everybody busy on this. But again, thanks for viewing, and again, post your questions, comments, suggestions, anything you have to say up on this YouTube post. Thanks for watching.